So it's not a brand new car. And when I first looked at it, I was like, well, it doesn't actually look that much different. But Porsche is doing what they always do. They come up with a progression of something that is already really good. We know the 911, and if you see a car from the 60s, and you see one from now, and you had an alien coming into town, they could probably still make out that it's actually the same car, the same genes. And with the Porsche Cayenne, it's very similar. So brand new 12 years ago, where everybody was really shocked, none of us is nowadays shocked that there's actually an SUV here in the showroom made by Porsche. So it is a progression which we can see in some details which I'll point out here in a minute. The Cayenne has become the biggest seller for Porsche. So we call this now the E22. It started out with the E1. That was the car that was launched in 2003. Porsche actually sold 276,000 of those. The E2, which was launched, was a major do-over, complete new platform, a lighter vehicle. They sold over 300,000 cars of those. Now, the Cayenne makes over 50% of Porsche sales. Now, there are a lot of enthusiasts here too, some that run their tires down really quickly. 600 miles on the front tire, that is awesome. I mean, that's real working. So even the enthusiasts nowadays, they are not turned up by this car anymore. And some of them, they pull their race car with a Cayenne. So it is still a very perplexing vehicle because it has such a broad spectrum of performance. It can take you on the road and it can take you very, very well, very fast. But it also can take you off-road. And the car's off-road capabilities are usually beyond what anybody here would ever expose it to. But that is one thing with the philosophy of Porsche. If we do something, we do it right. And Porsche has made the Cayenne without any compromise. And the car is extremely capable beyond, again, what I said, that any of us would probably ever use it for. So in detail, some of the things that are really different on the car, it's obviously an updated styling. Similar to, or following the lines of what the Porsche Macan has done, the hood design of the Cayenne has changed. So it has been brought out much wider and closer, or goes up to the fenders, which previously it had a shut line that was inside. A flatter hood design, and the air intakes in the front, which you can look later when you come around here, have been changed. The inside has been narrowed, the outside has been widened. Porsche now uses also this air baffle system that they use on the Macan that allows for temperature control of the motor. So these baffles that are electronically controlled, they are closed when the engine is in the warm-up phase, or if there's not much of a load, so the car can actually be better in aerodynamic terms. And they open up if we put a lot of work on the motor, so that there's better airflow to cool the engine. Headlights are a little bit different with a floating LED design right above the air intakes. The sides of the car are not also different, but the roof lines are cleaner with a better shut line here from the window to the roof for better aerodynamics. You have a more extended rear spoiler than on the previous car. The big obvious difference, at least from the outside, is actually the rear of the car. So most people will probably only see the Cayenne from the rear. So it is sleeker taillight design, also with LED taillights now. You have another big factor that changes the appearance is how the exhaust, the tailpipes, are actually pushed out further to the side. So they're now 3.94 inches wider than the previous exhaust system, gives you a lower, wider, more muscular appearance. So those are like the bigger features on the outside of the car. Having a makeover, in this case, wasn't just cosmetic. The big thing, which also allowed Porsche for a proper development and enough time to put a new motor in it, the V8 that we had previously on the Cayenne has been replaced with a twin-turbo 6-cylinder, which is now producing 420 horsepower. Probably everybody in this room knows that turbos are good for us in this altitude. One's for power. In this case, replacing the V8 is also good for fuel efficiency. That has gone up by quite a bit. An 8-speed automatic is still standard in all cars. The 420 horsepower of this car, that engine is actually co-developed also for the Macan Turbo. When you look at the price tag of the Macan Turbo versus the base price of the Cayenne S, they're really not that far apart anymore. And Porsche has put more features into the car standard, which creates actually a price reduction compared to an S previously if you opted for the same features. The main engines that Porsche is targeting, There's the base engine of the diesel, which a lot of us have become fans of. It's only 240 horsepower, but a monstrous 406 foot-pound of torque. Mileage that goes up to about 30 miles per gallon. This, an engine which I think rekindles the spirit for the faster car. The 420 horsepower now has actually the same torque as the diesel at 406 foot-pound of torque. And then, who can't get enough, there's still the turbo offering that produces 520 horsepower and 538 foot-pound of torque. So all of them are very, very quick. In terms of driving dynamics, Porsche pointed out one of the things, the bearings in the suspension have been changed. It gives you a more precise steering feel than the last car, which that has been really good already. We got a little bit of an idea of how good it was on a Porsche introduction here a few weeks ago in Broomfield, and we actually drove the cars up to Netherlands, which was a very curvy road, and everybody played in this, trailing back and forth in the line. So I was going, I don't know, I wasn't going above the speed limit, obviously not. But it felt really good. And I don't know why those tires were screaming. I have no idea. So it is an extremely capable car in terms of driving. Inside the car, there are not many changes, but one that is really obvious. So the first generation Cayenne had a steering wheel which not everybody found to be very pleasant, with very awkward shift rocker switches. Now we have the steering wheel of the $1 million car number. So it's based off the one in the Porsche 918, and that is really an ingenious setup in that car. Every Cayenne now will have shift pedals behind the steering wheel, properly separated, right for up, left for downshift, and a very intuitive control, a button control for all the features with a very great gauge to the right that has all your functions for navigation and readouts for G-force meter, anything that you can imagine on the right display can be controlled through the steering wheel. Seat options, Porsche has still 8-way seats, 14-way seats, like in this car, which allows for length adjustment. Anybody who's a little bit taller will probably really appreciate that. Or an 18-way, very supportive, adaptive sports seat. So if you drive the car the way it can be driven, the 18-way sports seat is actually really not a bad idea because it can handle very nicely. And I can show you how to drive to where you wish you had that seat. One of the changes, Porsche is now also getting a little bit more aware of, yes, we do have people in the back seat. Not everybody is that tall. We have adults sitting in the back, so the rear seats have now a little bit more contoured design, and they are a little thicker in their bolsters, so it's actually more comfortable. So that kind of concludes the changes. So in addition of an engine, which had enough time to be developed properly, so it's a really, really good motor. Maybe a little on the quiet side for some of us, but it's just very, very cool. So it doesn't have that V8 rumble anymore, but it's definitely very efficient and faster than the V8 was with a lot of low-end torque. You'll notice that when we drive the cars too. So some cosmetic changes and an evolution. One thing that when I look at your green shoes and your green shirt over there, I'm reminded of Porsche is going to push hybrids in the future more and more. It's just because of future fuel emission requirement or future fuel consumption requirements. The hybrid is kind of interesting because Porsche now is the first manufacturer that has a plug-in luxury SUV. So the new hybrid engine has a 95 horsepower electric motor, a 333 horsepower gas engine. The car can run, depending on driving style, anywhere from 11 to 22 miles on pure electric, up to 70 miles an hour. So if you had highway speeds, you can virtually run the car without the gas engine. And so it can be charged, which is really cool too. There's now an onboard charge system. Within an hour and a half, you can get full battery charging. So it will come one way or another. Turbocharging, as we see on this, will come for other cars too. Future 911s, and not so far from now, will all be turbos, even the base cars. Smaller displacements, turbos, more horsepower, better efficiency. So we better get used to it, and the hybrid will be a very interesting alternative, specifically for someone who's driving a lot in town, besides the diesel that has been doing very well for us. So that gives you at least a little bit of a feedback of what has changed on the car without being too detailed. If anybody has any questions, let me know. We can probably still mingle around the food if you haven't filled up yet, and then we're going to arrange for a little bit of a setup for a test drive. I hope that gets you all started, guys. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.